How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number, if you want to be on the program, 877-973-7425. It is book drop today. Thanks to all of you who sent me notes saying you pre-ordered the book. If you'd like to get a copy of it, you can text the word DATA, D-A-T-A, text it to 33777. You will get back a link and you can order You Shall Be as Gods, which I will get into in a little while. But I think probably the biggest story of the day is one in New York. New York City. It is Jamal Bowman's Day of Judgment in New York. It's primary day in New York. Now, for those who are like, I don't care about it, you should actually care about the story. And let me explain by going back first to yesterday. So, yesterday talked about the attacks on the Jews in Los Angeles. Interestingly enough, there's some spin out there that the reason for the protests was that the Jews were meeting to support a development in occupied West Bank territory. It's actually, that is Hamas spin. If you believe that the Jews were at the synagogue in Los Angeles to support a development in territory on the West Bank they're not supposed to build in, you're actually supporting Hamas propaganda. It's actually not true. They were looking at supportive developments inside Israel proper, but you know the left and Hamas consider every part of Israel to be occupied territory, which is where the spin comes from. But it's simply the truth that the development was in land that is currently actually undisputably Israeli. And yet there was this great hostility. The Hamas supporters showed up. They pepper sprayed Jews. They opposed the Jews. I had somebody leave an Instagram comment saying that this sort of ability to meet to discuss this sort of thing should be prohibited by law. Literally, someone said they shouldn't be allowed to discuss this because it was building on occupied land, and even discussing it and supporting it should be against free speech. Bizarrely, in any event, what we're seeing is this rise of anti-Semitism around the country, and it has come to a head with the primary of Jamal Bowman in New York. Jamal Bowman is a member of the Squad. Now, what's so interesting here, in fact, as part of the spin by the guys at Politico, and let me read you part of this. Since Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and company first came to Washington in 2019, just about everyone in the House Democratic caucus has been eager to see the Squad taken down a peg. The reasons are pretty much exactly what you'd expect in an institution frequently compared to high school: jealousy of their fame, frustration with their tactics, fear of their grassroots pull. That's not the only reason. Also, part of the reason is because of their pull of the party to the far left. You and I as conservatives would recognize that the House Democrats are, in fact, to the left. However, they're not as far left as the Squad. Now, the media is as far left as the Squad, and that's why they can't pick up on the fact that it's also the Squad's progressive politics. But Jamal Bowman was notable. He was a school principal. And he's the guy who pulled the fire alarm, you'll recall, during one of the votes. But it has come out over time that Bowman also is a 9/11 conspiracy theorist who believed it was an inside job and the Jews were somehow responsible for it. He's also made all the wild attacks about Hamas and the war in Gaza. He's clearly an anti-Semite. He clearly does not like Jews. He clearly believes in this global Jewish conspiracy. So he's being challenged. Of all things, he's being challenged by a consummate New York politician, George Latimer, who is 70 years old and Jewish. He's the Westchester County executive. It's a well-to-do area. Now, I need to set the theme here for you, just so you have perspective. In 2020, Jamal Bowman ousted Elliot Engel. Elliot Engel, you should know, was the House Foreign Affairs chairman. He beat a guy in a Democratic primary who was a prominent chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, a noted Democrat, and Bowman beat him by saying he was too close to Israel and too close to Netanyahu and the right wing in Israel. And he campaigned in large part by making it a race against Elliot Engel's support of Israel. And the people in that district turned out and supported Bowman over his attacks on Engel being too in the pocket of Israel. Now, ironically, Bowman is going to be beaten in New York, probably so. Now, listen, again, I realize all of you tell me the polls are always wrong. The polling in New York has Latimer ahead by double digits. Not only does the polling have him ahead by double digits, the early vote in New York, there is a massive, massive turnout in the Jewish communities in this district. Massive turnout. Bowman, for his part, has burned bridges with the Jews in his community. In fact, there have been stories that have circulated that Bowman's campaign has been reaching out to rabbis in the community saying, hey, can you share stories of how Representative Bowman has helped you and your constituency? Like begging rabbis to turn out and give testimonies for him, and none of them have indulged him. They flat out refused to indulge him on this. Good. Bowman's going to be beaten. The larger issue here is the festering anti-Semitism. And we are seeing some good Americans in New York in a Democratic primary rise up and turn against it. Joe Biden, yes, there's a Biden tie here. Joe Biden has been beholden to the progressive left. And after what happened to him in Michigan in the Michigan primary, he's begun to turn on Israel. He has betrayed Israel repeatedly because he's scared of the progressive left in New York, who are going to get repudiated today. This is part of the problem with Joe Biden being so tied to the left. But what's really notable is this weekend in Los Angeles, y'all, seriously, this weekend in Los Angeles, Jews were harassed, beaten, and pepper sprayed for going to a synagogue. This isn't Germany in the 1930s. This is Los Angeles in 2024. And the best Joe Biden can offer is a tweet. Because he's cloistered at Camp David doing debate prep, which is code for we've got to get his medications and his sleep schedule right. The fact that Jews could be beaten in Los Angeles, live on television, and the President of the United States cannot show up on television and denounce it, is part of the reason Joe Biden himself is struggling. There's a poll out in Georgia, a swing state Biden needs to win. And not only is he behind Donald Trump, he's outside the margin of error. Donald Trump is beating Joe Biden in Georgia outside the margin of error in the latest Atlanta Journal-Constitution poll. Not only that, there are parts of Illinois where there are congressional polls coming out, nonpartisan, not media polls, or not partisan polls, but media polls, where Joe Biden, who should be ahead by double digits, is ahead in single digits. In Florida, the Biden campaign is now saying they have no intention of contesting Florida. Florida is not a swing state. He has a very narrow field on which to run for re-election. Emily Singer is a progressive reporter. She's written for a bunch of progressive publications. Last night on Twitter, I tweeted that I would not be surprised that a number of Jewish voters wind up voting for Donald Trump in 2024, not because they like him, but because of what's happening with anti-Semitism in this country among the left. She replied to me. Now, she's written in a number of political publications and a number of mainstream publications. She replied, "Tell me you don't know a single Jewish voter without telling me you don't know a single Jewish voter." That was her reply, that implying I don't know a single Jewish voter. Y'all, I know a lot of Jews, including my syndication team, my immediate boss at my flagship station, my local rabbi. I know a lot of Jews. And this conversation comes up a lot, maybe not in her cloistered progressive bubble, but around the country in swing states, and it's showing up so much in the polling. CNN is writing about it, that a number of Jewish voters are alarmed at the growing amount of anti-Semitism in the United States of America, so much so that they're joining forces against Jamal Bowman in New York today, and he's probably going to be ousted. In Atlanta, freaking Georgia, a cookie shop owned by some Israeli immigrants is being harassed by Hamas supporters near the campus of Emory University. Allie's Cookies. Hamas supporters are trying to block access and harass people who shop at the cookie store. In Atlanta, Georgia, this is happening. This is not the Jim Crow era of the South where people are protesting black businesses and trying to keep blacks out of shops. These are Hamas supporters trying to keep ordinary Americans out of a cookie shop because an Israeli immigrant owns it. This is happening in the United States of America. In Los Angeles, they can't go to synagogue because they're getting pepper sprayed by Hamas supporters. And Joe Biden is silent. The best he can do is tweet. What is happening to the Democratic Party? This is wild to see. And the President of the United States, who said Charlottesville, Virginia, is the reason he ran for President of the United States. It is the galvanizing moment that caused him to run for president. It is the moment Joe Biden decided, I got to stop Donald Trump. And in Joe Biden's America, his administration is sending wheelchair-bound 72-year-old grandmothers to prison for blocking access to an abortion clinic by praying. But thus far, his administration has shown no signs of using the same law to round up the Hamasniks who are blocking Jews from going to synagogue. The same law can be used because there was a law from the 1960s, a conspiracy to infringe civil rights. It was used against the KKK when they were attempting to block black congregants from going to church in the South, and they were arrested, charged, and prosecuted. The same law can be used against the Hamasniks by Merrick Garland, who thus far has refused to do so, and there is no indication that Joe Biden wants him to prosecute the progressive Hamasniks, blocking Jews, blocking people from local stores. No indication at all. This is not the man who wanted to call America to its better angels. This is a man desperate to win, and he's desperate to win with the votes of Hamasniks, protesters against Jews. That's Joe Biden's coalition. He's remarkably silent from Camp David, but today, the voters in New York, if polls are right, will rise up and rebuke the anti-Semites within the Democratic Party. Joe Biden should take notice of this more than what happened in Michigan. Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. Get your tickets for The Gathering. Comes up August 8th in Atlanta. Glenn Youngkin, Brian Kemp, Doug Ducey, Kevin Hearn, Kevin Stitt, so many more. Folks from the RNC, Mike Pence is going to be there, the former Vice President of the United States. It's going to be a great time. If you text ENGAGE to 33777, you can get your tickets. The word ENGAGE, text it to 33777, get your ticket. August 8th through the 11th in Atlanta, Georgia. It's going to be a great time. I mentioned this story in the last segment, but I pulled this up. This is from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Former President Donald Trump holds a slight lead over President Joe Biden in Georgia in the AJC poll released Tuesday ahead of the debate. The poll of likely voters shows Trump leads Biden 43-38, just outside the margin of error of 3.1 percentage points. Independent contender Robert Kennedy, who's not on the Georgia ballot but is expected to qualify, is at 9%. 8% are undecided. There are sharp warning signs for Biden and Trump in Georgia, which emerged as one of the nation's premier battlegrounds in 2020. Nearly half of voters polled say they approve of the verdict in May about Trump. The poll reflects Biden's struggles refashioning a coalition of young liberals, black voters, and swing suburbanites that propelled him to a narrow victory. His support among young voters has cratered. 12% of Georgians, 18 to 29, say they'll vote Democrat. A majority of voters, 56%, disapprove of Biden's tenure in office, including about 1/5 of black voters and 60% of independent voters. Nearly 70% say the country's headed in the wrong direction. Very interesting. Now, what's notable here is that Democrats are worried about apathy more than they are bleeding votes to Trump. 1/5 of black voters are undecided or plan to stay home in the polling. That's kind of notable as well. Also shows Brian Kemp is far more popular than either of them. 2/3 of likely voters support Brian Kemp, way more than support Trump or support Biden. Maybe Trump shouldn't have burned his bridges with Brian Kemp. Nonetheless, this is good news for Donald Trump, in large part because 56% of voters say they approve of the decision of the court in New York, and yet Donald Trump is winning the polls. And those 8%, I have a personal theory. If you're that undecided, you get to October and you're that undecided, the odds of you voting for president reduce dramatically. And I'm more and more of the opinion that if you're undecided by maybe even Labor Day, the odds of you supporting either candidate kind of goes out the window, and either you don't vote or you go vote, but you just don't vote in that race. I think we're not going to see a high turnout in this election. It just appears to be shaping up because people have kind of given up on either candidate supporting the American dream, and part of the American dream is home ownership. The good news is now at Old Glory Bank, they're in the home loan business, and you can realize the American dream with a company that shares your American values. When you get a home loan with Old Glory Bank, you're doing business with a pro-America bank that's going to treat you with the respect you deserve. They offer VA, conventional, and FHA loans at competitive rates and quick closing times. And now, when you refer a friend to Old Glory Bank for a home loan and their loan closes by September 1st, they're going to send you $250 and a signed John Rich Old Glory Bank hat. The real reward is home ownership, but getting $250 and a John Rich autographed hat for referring a friend is a pretty nice bonus. You can find out more at oldglorybank.com. oldglorybank.com. It is my bank. I've got a great checking account, savings account with Old Glory Bank. Terms and conditions apply. Old Glory Bank's going to stand with you. They're member FDIC, equal housing lender, NMLS number 834337. And all that mouthful is to say, Old Glory Bank really is my bank. They're good people. They can do your loans and they can do your bank accounts. Go check them out, oldglorybank.com. Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here across the nation. I gotta just say something. There's something deeply wrong with the sports calendar. That hockey finished last night. Congratulations to the Florida Panthers fans. You disappointed my son. I tell you, my son, I'm afraid that Philip is leading my kid astray because he got my kid rooting for the Lightning and then went for Edmonton. And he's going to have to pick his own team instead of relying on Philip, who's a Tennessee Volunteer football fan. But it's wild to me that the basketball season ended before the hockey season, and both of them ended in June when they're winter sports. I mean, my wife the other day, I was talking to her about the Celtics winning. She's like, what do you mean the Celtics won? Why are they still playing? It's June. I was like, well, this is where we are in the world. These seasons stretch on forever. It's just kind of wild to me. Also, hockey. Whoever is in charge of the NHL, why are you putting the 7th game of the Stanley Cup on a Monday night instead of a Sunday night. Do you know I had to sit on my front porch on Sunday night and watch soccer when I could have watched hockey? But you people programmed it on a Monday. That reminds me, I mentioned Lionel Messi being on. That was last week. I'm told. This is how much I keep up with soccer. It was last week. I misunderstood a buddy of mine who said it was the lead-in game to the Olympic team. I thought he meant they were back-to-back games on the same day. Nope, it was last week. But on Thursday, Lionel Messi is not going to be in Atlanta. The Olympic team, the U.S. men's Olympic team, is going to be playing a soccer game in Atlanta on Thursday night. And Joe Biden and Donald Trump are going to be in town as well, and traffic's going to be a mess. And now, so my flagship station in Atlanta has a brilliant traffic team. They have helicopters. They are in the know. You can get a better traffic forecast from them than by using Google Maps. In fact, they've got an amazing app you can get with their traffic where it's updated faster than Waze or Google. And anyway, an amazing traffic team, wonderful people in the traffic team at WSB in Atlanta, and their helicopters getting grounded by the Secret Service at 2 p.m. It's going to be a disaster for traffic. They're going to have to rely on the DOT cameras for where all the traffic is. It's going to be a mess in Atlanta on Thursday. I got asked by CNN to be in Atlanta on Thursday for the debate, and I said, absolutely not. I would like to get home without turning into the Donner Party. Nope, I do not want to be in Atlanta for the debate in any way, shape, or form. Now, I'm going into this sight unseen because somebody texted me this and asked me my thoughts, and well, here it is. At Camp David, a movie theater and an airplane hangar have been outfitted with lights and production equipment to create a mock debate stage. At least 16 current and former aides summoned from Washington and Wilmington whiz back and forth on golf carts to join President Biden in strategy sessions. Mr. Biden is entering his fifth day of preparations at the presidential retreat in the woods of northern Maryland for Thursday's debate against Donald J. Trump. Camp David has become the epicenter for an administration and campaign effort to help Mr. Biden shake off the rust that often comes with being an incumbent on the defense and combat widespread voter concerns that he is too old to be an effective president. Both candidates are out of practice as debaters. And Mr. Biden's top advisors, including Ron Klain, who is managing the debate preparations, are aware of the missteps incumbents have made in the past. In 2012, President Barack Obama flailed in his first re-election debate and had to quickly reorient for the second one. So they'll be working to position Mr. Biden not only as a president in the midst of a re-election campaign, but also as a fighter who can counterpunch on the fly. Mr. Trump, an opponent who is adept at extemporaneous insults, skipped the primary debates that could have sharpened his skills. Hello, so did Joe Biden. The rust factor is real, said David Axelrod, former top strategist to Mr. Obama. Neither of these guys is accustomed to having someone a few feet away grilling them with no deference. According to people familiar with the planning at Camp David who were not authorized to speak publicly about it, the work days vary in length and are not rigidly structured. Of course not. He's 80 some odd years old. Mr. Biden and his most trusted advisors work on what they think would be best to refine or practice in the moment. They're all trying to game out exactly what attacks Mr. Trump might launch as Mr. Biden, which policies of his Mr. Trump could try to undermine, and how they can best keep the president focused on landing an argument and striking a character and policy contrast with Mr. Trump. This is from the New York Times. Now, while all of this is happening, I got to find this audio for you because this is part of the issue that Joe Biden is going to have to deal with, and that is the economy until COVID hit was not bad under Donald Trump. And this is Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, talking about the economy in ways that probably Joe Biden wants to echo.
So yes, eggs and milk, and there were grocery things that were up. It has gone down. It has gone down since 2022. Gas prices, because of the actions that this president took, and let's not forget there was an invasion, but Russia did obviously into Ukraine that caused gas prices to tick up. The president took action, tapped the SPR, and we saw gas prices go down. The president has met the moment with every issue that we have had in front of us.
That's not true. Gas prices are still higher than when Joe Biden took office. And yes, The rate of inflation has slowed, and some grocery store prices actually are down, but most of them are still higher than when Joe Biden took office. In fact, across the board, the staples, bread, milk, eggs, cheese, produce, meats, they're all still higher than when Joe Biden was president of the United States. And if he tries to use that line, I mean, Donald Trump can turn it on him very, very quickly and say, Joe, just because the rate of inflation has gone down doesn't mean prices aren't still going up. They're just not going up as fast. How do you, as the president, not understand this? I knew it when I was president. I got to be real honest. As I'm talking, I have a voice in the back of my head. No, not one of those voices, people. No, not someone whispering in my ear legit. No, just in the back of my head. I wonder, is the debate really going to matter? Is it? Now, let's go back to the AJC poll that I mentioned. 8% of people are undecided. Those people, they may decide. My guess is, though, that they decide that they're not going to vote, that this debate turns them off more than anything. But Biden really does have more to lose than Donald Trump. My theory in this campaign, and I can be wrong, and I realize I got a couple million people listening right now, and there's probably a couple million different opinions on this. But my thinking has always been Biden as the incumbent has a natural advantage. Incumbents have a natural advantage. But Biden's got to reassure people that he can handle 4 more years. All Trump has to do is show up and not make a complete jerk of himself. And Trump's going to do fine because people's opinion of Trump is already baked in. See, people don't like Donald Trump. You may like Donald Trump. You may love Donald Trump. But most Americans don't. But most Americans love his policies. And again, it's like I said yesterday. If you hate them both, but you like the policies of Trump, the odds are you're either not going to vote or you're going to vote for Donald Trump. People don't like the policies from Joe Biden. So Joe Biden, 1, he can't have a senior moment. 2, he's got to come across as likable and empathetic, which is real hard after Afghanistan. And 3, he's got to defend policy. And I just find it very difficult if the best he can do is echo Karine Jean-Pierre that actually, yeah, gas prices, grocery prices, they went up, but they're back down. They're not. And no American in the United States of America who has gone to a grocery store has seen prices at or below what they were in 2022. They haven't gone, we haven't had deflation, in other words. To say that prices have come down is factually not true. The rate of increase in prices has slowed, but the price has not come down. And if Biden tries to defend that, progressives will eat it up. Progressives will love it because they just want an excuse to defend Joe Biden. Progressives are going to go vote for Joe Biden. They're just not defending him in the town square right now. They want an excuse to defend him. And if he goes on combat about that, they're going to defend him even though it's not true. And in defense of Biden on that point, they're going to alienate middle America because Americans go to the grocery stores. Y'all, I'm not making, actually, you know what? Where's my phone? Where's my phone? I want to be accurate with this. I don't want you to think I'm wildly speculating because you're going to hear the number as well. And you're going to think, good Lord, Erickson, really? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. I went to my local Publix 5 times on Sunday. 5 times. The first time, I had to go pick up medicine that should have come in, but the post office messed it up. The second time I went to Publix, I went grocery shopping for the week. We do a grocery list. The third time I went to Publix because something I got turned out to be spoiled and I had to go take it back and replace it. The fourth time I went to Publix is because I misread what my wife wrote on the grocery list and I had to go back and buy some extra stuff. The fifth time I went to Publix, I needed a bag of ice I've got a swamp cooler outside. You put water in it with a bucket of ice, and it actually is a fan, but it has like these sponges on the side that soak up water. And anyway, I went to the grocery store 5 times on Sunday. I go to the grocery store regularly. I assure you, as the person who does the grocery shopping for my home and family, grocery prices have not come down at all. They may not be going up fast anymore, but they're still high. And for the Democrats to deny it, for Joe Biden to try to deny it on stage is something. Now, part of the problem here as well is that Joe Biden lives in the cloistered bubble of the White House and Donald Trump lives in the cloistered bubble of Mar-a-Lago. Neither of them go to the grocery store. I remember Rush Limbaugh one time telling me, he said it on air, he told me as well that the thing he missed the most in his career was being able to go to the grocery store. He'd get mobbed by people if he went to the grocery store. I just put on my earbuds and my cap, not that I'm Rush Limbaugh, but I like to go to the grocery store. I like to shop. I like to see what's there. I'm the one who does it for my family with my wife and being immunocompromised, fancy word to say that, she's on chemo and her immune system isn't what it should be. She tries to avoid crowds at the grocery store. I go. I have seen the price of milk go up. I've seen the price of meat go up. I bought a 7-pound brisket the other day and it was $60 and it was a flat. It wasn't even a packer cut. It wasn't the point. It was $60. It was really good, by the way. My Rec Tech handled it well. It's a little bit dry, admittedly, a little bit dry, but it was still really good. But it was $60. Milk's expensive. Everything's expensive. And that is the point, that Donald Trump on the debate stage can focus on these issues. He can focus on the border. He can focus on crime. He can focus on grocery prices. And Joe Biden's got to stand there and take it and not be defensive, because as thin-skinned as Donald Trump can be, Joe Biden is just as thin-skinned. The media has some sort of hagiography about Joe Biden that, oh, no, he's never an angry old man. Yes, Joe Biden is a bitter, angry old man. And he's got to stand there and take it. And it's going to be glorious to watch Donald Trump giving the business if he can. But I do wonder about what Donald Trump is doing for debate prep, but that's a story for another time. Now, right now, I got to tell you about Americans for Prosperity, because one of the big issues in the debate obviously is going to be immigration and the border. And Americans for Prosperity Foundation has been taking people to the border so that they themselves can see what's going on. And then Americans for Prosperity has set up Secure Border, SecureAmerica.com, so you yourselves can see the policy solutions for the border. Secure Border, SecureAmerica.com is the website. It shows you the common sense conservative solutions to securing our southern border and the northern border, and what we need as a nation to do. And you can rally your members of Congress to support these common sense solutions. Overwhelming 2/3 of Americans support securing the southern border. It's something we can do. Secure Border, Secure America lays the pathwork. It's brought to you by my friends at Americans for Prosperity. Go check it out. Secure Border, SecureAmerica.com. Greetings and welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here. This hour of the program brought to you by First Liberty Building and Loan, wherever you are nationwide. First Liberty can help your business grow. If you're buying a building, buying a franchise, reach out to them. FirstLibertyGA.com. FirstLibertyGA.com. Y'all, I may have to come back to this story a little while later because you know my obsession with this story. But this is from Politico. 46% of American EV drivers want to go back to gas cars. In fact, younger drivers are most likely to be dissatisfied with the decision and want to go back to gasoline-burning cars. This is a McKinsey & Company consulting report that basically half of people regret it, and it's not just the lack of charging infrastructure, and they're saying it's a warning sign for travel. Here's the problem. I saw somebody put this up on Twitter the other day. Somebody was talking about they were able to drive a great long distance in their Tesla, and all they had to do was map out the charging stations, and they were able to stop and charge and stop and charge and stop and charge and go a great long way across the country. And the person replied that bragging that you built your road trip around your car charging stations is not the selling point that you think it is. And that really, it reminded me. So this is how I discovered Rush Limbaugh. My dad and I went on the classic father-son road trip to discover colleges. And we decided to get off the interstate. And we went through rural Alabama. We were headed first to Mercer University. Then we were going up to Virginia to look at colleges in Virginia. Then we were going back to Duke on our way back to Louisiana. And we took the road less traveled. We couldn't have done that even on the Tesla charging network today. And this was back in the 90s. We couldn't have done that today, really. It would have slowed us down dramatically. But back then, we could get off the beaten path. We could take back roads through southern Alabama and US 80 over through Columbus, Georgia. Still a pretty rural part, a rural drive, but we knew there would be gas stations. You can't do that with an electric car. And with a Tesla more so than most, but still you have trouble. You don't know how strong is the charging station. This is part of the problem. I don't know if y'all realize this, but in a lot of cases, your charging stations to charge your cars actually don't put out enough power to rapidly charge the car. It takes a very long time. I don't know why my phone decided I'm exercising all of a sudden, but nonetheless, sorry. You can't do that with an electric vehicle. And that is what the research suggests why so many people are so dissatisfied with their electric vehicles is they feel like they are fixed to charging paths. They can't just take a ride through the countryside. And they're right. They are now tied to the car. The car is not an instrument of freedom where they can get in and just drive. They have certain distances they can drive, in certain locations they can go. And if they get out to where there's an electric charging station and they need to charge and it's not a strong charging station, they could be stuck for more than an hour as opposed to just putting gas in their car. And this is what the research is showing. Now, those of you who have electric cars, you love them, God bless you. That's fine. But understand, half of Americans, and particularly young drivers new to the market, are saying, turns out, I don't really like an electric car, and I think I want a gas-powered vehicle. That's a problem for the embrace of EVs. I saw it coming. So did you.